Linhares is here with you today to talk to you all about Scorpio energy, transforming passion into purpose. So in this episode, I'm going to break down what is this very misunderstood energy of the Scorpio archetype. And then I'm going to break down the energy of the moon. Then I'm going to show you how the moon in Scorpio operates and share my own personal story about my relationship with Scorpio Moon energy. I was born with a full moon, 29 degrees Scorpio full moon. So Scorpio Moon energy is something I have lived with my entire life. And believe me, it has not been an easy energy to work with. What is Scorpio energy? Transformation, death, and rebirth. It is the why. Scorpio wants to know why. It's the investigator. It's the detective. Scorpio sees everything with X-ray vision. It can see the ulterior motives of others. It can see when there's a lie being told. It can see into the shadows and see what's happening behind the scenes. Scorpio is very passionate. It is very intense. It's very driven. It's very strategic. Ruled by both Mars and Pluto. So Mars being the action, the passion, the drive, the desire, and Pluto being that transformational force that will change something from one state to another. Pluto in evolutionary astrology also represents the soul's evolution. It is what we came in to work with in this life. What was our deep soul desires? What did we want to learn, to transform and transmute in this life? Scorpio is water energy, fixed water energy, meaning it is in touch with the emotions. It is complex emotional waters. It is the deep penetrating aspects of being a human. It is sensitivity, it is intuition, it can be psychic energy. It can feel everything. It feels its environment and it feels itself to be very vulnerable. This is part of the misunderstanding of Scorpio energy, is that at the base, at the heart of the Scorpio energy is a deep insecurity, a vulnerability and a wounding, a trauma of betrayal, abandonment. So there's this deep complexity within the Scorpio archetype of needing to protect itself. And so we see this in the image of the scorpion, the animal, how it's dark in the shadows and it's protected by this sort of tough exterior. From the outside, it may look as though it's a menace because the Scorpio has that stinger that could just kill. But at the heart of Scorpio energy, the part that people don't understand is that it's very insecure and very vulnerable sign. It has a deep relationship with fear. Fear is a huge part of the Scorpio journey, and facing fears and overcoming its fears, surrendering into the fear, going into that cave that we fear to enter, in order to up-level, to transmute that fear into fearlessness. Scorpio has a deep drive. It is very motivated by the strategy of how to get from A to B. When it fixates its mind on something or its emotion or its intensity, it can become obsessive. It can be paranoid, and it can really, on one hand, it's very positive in the driven, strategic, going towards its goal. Like it won't lose focus. It can be so focused on what it desires. However, on the other side of the coin, it can be very unhealthy in how obsessive it can get into these very unhealthy, obsessive loops. Scorpio is also very highly sexualized energy. Taurus and Scorpio actually is the axis of sexuality. So Scorpio has this deep desire to merge with another, has a desire to bond, to become one. It's the essence of the high alchemized levels of Scorpio is Tantra. It's the tantric act of merging with another or merging with the source, wanting to feel connected to everything. Scorpio has this terrifying reputation that everyone fears about what it means to be a Scorpion energy. And what most people can feel right off the bat about Scorpio energy is that it's very intense. It's deep, it's penetrating, it's psychological. It is fixed water energies. There are different levels of Scorpio energy depending on your level of consciousness. The side of Scorpio that everyone fears, all those dark emotions, is the low shadow realms of Scorpio. So when we actually get into working with the higher energies of Scorpio, it is this beautiful alchemy. Scorpio is the sign of alchemy, transformation, metamorphosis. It is the magical moment between the caterpillar and becoming a butterfly. It is that magic that can be found when we surrender and allow ourselves to be alchemized. Scorpio energy is also associated with the 8th house and the planet Pluto. Those three share similar energies, similar archetypes. Scorpio energy can be very uncomfortable, very unstable, very resistant to change. The biggest lesson in this life for Scorpio is to learn how to let go. It is about learning to surrender into that process of loss. Scorpio can hold on way too long and can become fixated on something, even if it's not healthy, even if it doesn't serve. And so Scorpio is learning to trust that process of death. Scorpio energy is associated with death. It's associated with that transformation from life into death. It represents letting go of control. Scorpio energy is deeply associated with power and control. Pluto is the planet of power and control. And so Scorpio brings with it these dynamics, these power dynamics. That's why it's associated with manipulation, because it's about power and control. And therefore, a deep Scorpio lesson is empowerment or having no power. So there's a huge theme of, do you have the power or are you being dominated and being overpowered by another? The 3 levels of Scorpio energy. Every sign of the zodiac has different levels of consciousness. There's the higher realms and the shadow realms. All of us here are working on learning how to transmute the lower energies into the higher energies. The first level of Scorpio is that image of the animal, the scorpion. It's hiding in the shadows. It's sort of watching, and it's there with its tail ready to sting. A scorpion will kill itself rather than be killed. So there is something very fierce, very shocking, very provocative about a Scorpio. And also that stinger represents a poison, a death. So Scorpio in the lower energy, we're talking about very strong emotions. And we're talking about a lack of control. We're talking about a lack of impulse control. So Scorpio low end is very reactive. It's very intense. It can bring up those deep, dark emotions of jealousy, envy, manipulation, betrayal, revenge. Revenge is a huge Scorpio theme. And the reason Scorpio low energy is in the shadow realm is because there's this story in the archetype of Scorpio, which is total heartbroken abandonment and betrayal. There's like stories of abuse because it's power and control dynamics. So it's like the abused versus the abuser. There's the betrayal and the betrayer. So there's energy of like cheating, hiding, stealing, manipulating. This is low end shadow stuff. So Scorpio can very, very easily get swayed and pulled into the shadow because there's so much passion. There's so much emotion. There's so much feeling. There's so much depth in the Scorpio archetype. And so that's why I'm calling this new moon transforming passion into purpose. Because on the low end of Scorpio, if we're just reacting, we're putting ourselves in these dark situations, these cycles that will never end. And it's actually not what the Scorpio energy really, truly desires. What it wants is a deep connection, a deep merging, a deep understanding, to be seen for who they truly are, to be held in the intensity of that emotion. I was born with a 29-degree full moon in Scorpio, opposite my Taurus sun. So I deeply understand this energy. This is an energy I have been working with my entire life. And I can tell you it's a very challenging energy to work with because you want people to understand you. You want people to see you, but yet you feel so insecure and so vulnerable and so, fearful when you're in that lower energy. And at the same time, it's a beautiful energy for deeply feeling into the other. It's an energy that we want to deeply unite and merge and connect and integrate all aspects of being. We are not afraid of the shadow realms. So when you're working on personal self-development, you want to find someone that is not afraid of going into that shadow realms, because we want to, as we become more conscious, integrate all aspects of being. We do not want to run from one for fear of conflict, for fear of looking at, our guilt, our shame, our darkness. We are human beings. We all carry both sides. We all have all aspects of being that we are here to learn to integrate. And I truly believe that we all have the opportunity to really transmute that energy. No matter what we have done in the past, I truly believe we do not need to live in the prison of the past. I believe we have an opportunity in every moment to make new choices. So what we are seeing in the present moment is a result of our past choices, but our future need not be the same as our past. Like I said, there's a deep emotional wound. There could be a trauma involved there that could allow them to feel like they need to protect themselves. There's also, like I mentioned, a darker side of like sexual abuse. There's often like abuses of power in a sexual way. It doesn't have to be sexual, but there could be a lot of sexual traumas in the energy of Scorpio. Another low-end Scorpio archetype is all of the deep desires that we can't control, meaning addiction, meaning being resistant to what you need, meaning you're avoiding the long-term benefits for the short term. So in Scorpio, because of the obsessive nature, we can get really caught up in this loop of desire, like wanting, and never being satisfied. That hungry ghost energy of wanting more sex, food, more alcohol, more drugs, more cigarettes, wanting more. So there really is this energy in the shadow realms of sort of being stuck in this cycle of like almost being enslaved to the desire, like falling into a slavery of desire. Then we move to the second level of Scorpion energy, which is the Phoenix. When Scorpio gets into more consciousness, there is the beautiful art of alchemy that can take place. We can move into courage, bravery, fierce fire, passion that allows the Phoenix to burn itself, going into that cave and allowing itself to crumble into transformation, into that death, like falling into the fire and really just letting go in order to alchemize, in order to become a higher version. And this is the first level of alchemy, where we understand that we can move from one form to another. We can alchemize our dark nature, our shadow realms. We can alchemize this passion into purpose. And then we move into the third stage, which is the eagle, which is an animal of wisdom that flies above, looking below and seeing everything. Scorpio high-end sees everything, but doesn't have the connection to those carnal passions where it needs to react. So when we move into that higher realm of scorpionic energy, we come into the realm of the shaman, the alchemist, the witch, the powerful sage who can work with the darkness. And instead of using the darkness for personal egoic gain, it can transmute it into healing, into integration, into power. But power, ruling with power, instead of manipulation, ruling with integrity. So the highest level of Scorpio is that alchemist, that shaman, that assists humanity, transmuting, transforming all those fears into power, into fearlessness, into courage. So when we have a Scorpio moon, we have a moon that is not comfortable. The moon is at home, exalted in Taurus, the opposite of Scorpio. So it feels uncomfortable because the moon wants to meet its needs. It wants to be nurtured. It wants to feel safe and secure. And with this Scorpion energy, there is no safety. So the moon here is very uncomfortable in its fall. When we look at the moon energy in astrology, and particularly in evolutionary astrology, we are looking at how we are living each day, that moment between our past and our future evolutionary desire. So the moon is really what we need, what we feel, and how we enact that dichotomy between the past and the future, between who we have been in terms of a soul, a spirit, and in terms of who we are here to learn to become. So it's about how we feel, what we need to feel safe and secure every single day. It's how we enact those soul desires in a conscious way. Where do you need to allow yourself to surrender into the process, trusting that you will be supported, trusting that you will know what to do? I'm sending you so much love from Madeira Island. I will be back very soon with more energy astrology. I do personal readings. I can tap into your energetic archetypes, your blueprints, and I can also work with what you need to know. My specialty really is deeply seeing into the other and knowing what you need to hear in order to break free from your limitations or whatever is stopping you from really living the life of your dreams. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing.